This is the Information Brief, a Holyoke Media service with the most recent updates of relevance in the city of Holyoke and the Pioneer Valley. I'm Johan Rashi Vega, and this is the information for Thursday, May 7th of 2020. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education announced the appointment of the new superintendent receiver for Holyoke Public Schools. Holyoke Media had the opportunity to speak with the newly appointed superintendent of the Holyoke Public Schools, and also we provide an editorial on the communication process from the state. And we have the most recent numbers at the Holyoke Soldiers Home. This is the information. This Thursday afternoon, the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Commissioner Jeffrey Riley released a letter to the Holyoke Public Schools announcing the appointment of the new superintendent receiver who will replace Dr. Steve Shrike on July 1st, 2020. The new superintendent is Dr. Alberto Vázquez Matos. Born in Puerto Rico and raised in New York City, he has been the deputy superintendent for the Hartford Public Schools in Connecticut. Vázquez Matos has a doctoral degree in administrative leadership for teaching and learning from the Walden University. And during his career in education, Vázquez Matos has been a teacher, academic dean, assistant principal, and principal. We got the opportunity to speak with the new appointed superintendent this afternoon. This is our conversation with Dr. Alberto Vázquez Matos.
What do you think convinced the education commissioner to select you? What did you tell him what was your pitch on why he should choose you?
So what was my pitch? I think, number one, making sure that the commissioner and the stakeholders who were involved in the interview process understood that I'm coming to this position with, number one, with a sincere approach. And what I mean by that is that I already knew what was the requirements for the position. I already had the opportunity to kind of see what the families were looking for in the new receiver. So I knew already by looking at what were the requirements and what was the community looking for, I actually saw a connection because of my own lived experience. In being raised in New York City, in an urban setting, being an L student, and also my own personal professional journey in education, and understanding that, wow, this is an opportunity for me to be able to be a leader in a district where students can actually connect with me and see me as a role model and say, one day I can be a superintendent. One day I can be a receiver. One day I can be a doctor. And that it's okay to be a Latino in a leadership position. And it is okay to be someone who is bilingual and biliterate, and to be able to celebrate the fact that being biliterate is a superpower, and to be able to be that lived visual person for families and students in the community of Holyoke really was kind of the message I said to the commissioner. And that because I understand many of their challenges and struggles, because I've lived that experience professionally and even just personally, I saw it more as a vocation or a mission to be able to lead the district to eradicate the obstacles for students to have access to quality education.
Thank you. Thank you for being here with us today, and congratulations. Welcome to Holyoke.
Thank you.
I'm going to make the question both English and Spanish. ¿Cuáles son los aspectos que pondría como prioridad para comenzar a trabajar de lo que conoce en este momento que las escuelas de Holyoke necesitan? What will be the first approach on the things to start working on about what you know so far about the Holyoke Public Schools?
Lo primero, una de las prioridades que yo tengo en los primeros meses es observar en verdad lo que está pasando en nuestras escuelas, ¿no? Ver de mis propios ojos cómo van las enseñanzas clases tras clases y cómo los estudiantes están dialogando y aprendiendo la materia a través de la enseñanza que están pasando en las escuelas. La segunda es, ¿cuáles son los recursos que faltan? Mirar todos los recursos que tiene el distrito, porque posiblemente hay recursos que posiblemente con conversaciones con los profesores y conversaciones con los directores que para hoy día no tiene validez para nuestros estudiantes. Posiblemente se tienen que cambiar, ¿no? Porque vamos a ver, ahora estamos en un tiempo donde la mayoría bueno, casi todos los estudiantes están aprendiendo a través de la red, ¿no? Eso es algo totalmente nuevo. Y muchos distritos, incluyendo Holyoke, nunca, vamos a decir, no estaban tan preparados para ese cambio. Vamos a tomar, yo entrando es tomar esta oportunidad a través de la pandemia de COVID y decir, bueno, vamos a coger esto como un ejemplo y una manera de aprender de esta situación y mirar al futuro y decir, bueno, vamos a preparar a los estudiantes que pueden aprender a través de la red encima de lo que está pasando en los salones físicos, ¿no? Eso es un ejemplo, a mirar la práctica de la pedagogía que está pasando en sus escuelas, pero también cuáles son los recursos que faltan y cuáles son los recursos que ya que ya ni tienen validez para la manera que nuestros estudiantes están aprendiendo.
In context, one of the priorities that I have in mind during the first month is to observe, to really pay attention to what is happening in the schools, and see with my own eyes how teaching is happening in every class and how the students are learning the subjects through the teaching methods at the schools. The second thing will be to find out what are the resources that are lacking. I will review the whole set of resources that are available at the school district and through conversations with teachers and principals to figure out what is current and maybe some things may no longer be current or valid for our students today. So there might be a need to do some changes because, for instance, right now we are in a time where all students are learning through remote learning online. And this is something completely new, and many school districts, including Holyoke, have never experienced something like this. And I would like to take this opportunity and use it as an example to learn from this situation and prepare our students to learn virtually aside and on top of what is happening in the classrooms physically. This is an example to look to the practices of the pedagogy of what is happening in the schools and also to identify the resources that are missing and also the resources that may no be longer current for what the students really need to learn.
So, you've been appointed, and it's actually in the worst circumstances because, well, for the obvious reasons. How are you, and this is something we talked about with Dr. Zweig also previously, how do you overcome all the negativity associated with being imposed on a community? How do you break through a lot of that knee-jerk reaction that people are going to have, and as they had with Dr. Zweig, who basically won almost everybody over in the end anyway?
Yeah.
It's different being hired than being appointed, and this is the first time we see you, we know of you, and the same is going to be for everybody in Holyoke. So how are you going to, because you talked about listening and learning.
Yeah. So Natalia, that's a great question. And I've done my homework, right? I've seen, things that have been written in the past, and done my due diligence. I think, and this is where, and I hope as partners, in the spirit of transparency and communication, that what's communicated to the community is that I'm not going into this position, Natalia, because I'm appointed or I'm not appointed, whether I'm a receiver or I'm a superintendent. I'm going into this in the spirit and with the energy that I want to do what's best for the students of Holyoke. Whether you want it, whether I'm appointed or not, or at the end of the day, my job and where my core beliefs are grounded is that Juan in third grade is reading at or above grade level. That Claire in eighth grade is passing the state proficiency state exam in math at or above grade level. That Carlos is getting the counseling that he needs because he's just had a traumatic issue at home. I'm going into this position not avoiding all that noise, because it's not about, I'm not going in there about that. I'm going into this position because those kids need someone like me to be their voice. And my job is to lift student voice and making sure that we have high quality teachers in front of them, that we have the resources that they need in order to be able to achieve, and that students are graduating with all the skills necessary for college or career. So I appreciate that question, but no, I hope my goal is going to be making sure that the community understands by my actions, but we can say a lot of things by words, right? But by my actions, I can demonstrate that what I'm saying to you now is what I'm going to live and demonstrate in my actions every day.
What will be your message for the teachers, parents, students in the Holyoke Public Schools?
What would be my message? Well, I think the first message, I think my message will be to them. Number one, that I am humbled and honored that I have been selected to be their new receiver and superintendent, and that I am so looking forward to meeting them, personally, and looking for that opportunity to actually, walk the community, get to know individuals, meet teachers, visit their classrooms, being able to eat in the local restaurants and getting to know the business owners and how they are actually supporting our schools, and just building relationships with them so that one, they get to know me, but also I get to know them. And that would allow me and inform me actually to really build out a strategic plan, or refine the current strategic plan to meet the needs of our families. And to know that they have a friend in Alberto.
As we were able to present this conversation with the new superintendent the very same day of his appointment by the state, this has been an uphill process that has created a lot of concern since the announcement by Dr. Steve Shrike in December that he will be leaving Holyoke Public Schools. And for that reason, our news director, Natalia Munoz, has prepared the following editorial comment.
I've just finished participating in a press conference with the new receiver, superintendent for the Holyoke Public Schools. Dr. Alberto Vasquez Matos is a deputy superintendent from Hartford. He's going to begin here in Holyoke on July 1st, replacing Dr. Stephen Zreich, who is the first superintendent or receiver appointed to the Holyoke Public Schools 5 years ago, and who at the end of June is moving to a new position in Salem, Massachusetts. The press conference went very well. It was a wonderful back and forth between Dr. Vasquez and other members of the media. And however, I wrote an editorial because the lack of transparency on the part of the education department, specifically the Department of Education for Elementary and Secondary Schools, led by Commissioner Jeffrey Riley, has left a lot to be desired. Holyoke has been under receivership for 5 years, is continuing to be under receivership, and the process to appoint a new receiver has been quite secretive. There were some public forums held a few months ago where Mr. Riley had hired a private firm to gather people's opinions on what they want in a superintendent. And people went and with their good heart and great intentions shared their points of view. And one of those points of view was, will Mr. Riley please write us back, whether it's a letter to the mayor of Holyoke, or if it's to the principals or through the education department, an open letter, in any case, saying he has received the feedback from Holyoke, this is what he thinks about it, and this is what he's looking for in a superintendent. To this date, we still don't know what Mr. Riley was looking for, other than to appoint another receiver with the obvious goals of, let's improve the outcomes in terms of graduation rates, let's lower the suspension rates, let's improve teacher retention. But still, we have tried numerous times to reach out to Mr. Riley, and we have not received a response regarding when he would be made available to us. So this is the editorial. Dr. Vasquez Matos, currently the deputy superintendent of the Hartford Public Schools, will begin on July 1st. He seems well qualified. He's with a long career in education, as a teacher, an academic dean, an assistant principal, an associate superintendent, a chief of staff, communities in New York, in Florida, and Connecticut. That's all we know. We wish that we would have received a resume. We wish we would have received the contract itself, because the public has a right to know in detail the background of the new superintendent and the terms of the contract. The Education Commissioner, Mr. Riley, missteps regarding transparency in this process do not for one moment affect the warm welcome we give to Dr. Vasquez Matos to Holyoke. And we at Holyoke Media will seek, and we've already said this to him, will seek to work with him in partnership and to be a good partner to the Holyoke schools. State control of a city's public schools is a bitter pill, and it's made much more difficult to swallow when there is a lack of transparency coming from the state. We do not understand why the Education Commissioner has rejected to meet with the media. Before the pandemic, we would have gone to Boston. During the pandemic, through Zoom, we have questions to ask the Education Commissioner, because he is ultimately who's in charge of the Holyoke Public Schools. The silence from the commissioner, we all hope, that is resolved soon, so that the people of Holyoke have a chance to meet and question and converse with the person who appointed the superintendent of schools for the city's 5,000 plus children. It is that important to everybody, that who is holding the power in Boston make himself available to the people of Holyoke, in our view.
In other information and regarding the Holyoke Soldiers Home, the numbers provided by the state as of this Thursday are: testing results of all residents. 80 veteran residents have tested positive. 60 veteran residents have tested negative. Regarding the resident locations, 106 residents are on site and 34 residents are off site. Of those, 32 residents are at a dedicated skilled nursing unit at the Holyoke Medical Center, and 2 residents are receiving acute care off site. There has been 85 veteran resident deaths, 72 positive, 12 negative, 1 unknown. And regarding the employees, 83 employees have tested positive. Stay in the know with Holyoke Media. We are reporting different announcements, services, and updates in the local, state, and federal level related to this COVID-19 emergency. This service is available in English and Spanish for our community in the city of Holyoke and the Pioneer Valley. This is the information we have for today. We will continue updating and following up as soon as more information becomes available. If you have questions or information to share with us as well as your concerns, you can contact us on our different outlets in social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and podcast distribution platforms. Also, you can watch us on Holyoke Cable Channel 15. Remember to wash your hands, keep a safe distance if you need to be out, and also remember to wear a face covering or mask. This has been the information brief for May 7th of 2020. I'm Johan Rashi Vega, and you're watching Holyoke Media.